Hello friends, today I'm going to be telling you about my favorite rock singer, Jeff Buckley. And it's very interesting how I discovered him. I was on YouTube doing some research into a 1689 opera aria by Henry Purcell, Dido, and Aeneas called Dido's Lament. And there were a number of opera artists that were doing this, and in the middle of it was this rocker, and I was kind of intrigued, and I listened to his performance, and he just blew me away. The authenticity of his performance, the beauty of his singing. He did his own interpretation that was wonderfully valid, and I fell in love with him, and I got his album Grace, and I must have listened to Grace pretty much obsessively for at least 3 months, nothing else. And I just became besotted of Jeff Buckley. He was the son of Tim Buckley, who was a very famous folk artist. And like his son, he had a beautiful voice with an enormous, extensive range. It was very unusual. And it passed down to the son. But the son actually did not start off as a singer. He started off as a guitarist. And he was in a number of small bands, even a punk band, I think, in Southern California. And it wasn't until his father died and he was invited to go to the funeral. He never knew his father, but I don't know what possessed him, but he decided he wanted to sing, and he had never sung in public before. And at this funeral were all of these music bigwigs, and they were just completely blown away with his singing. It shifted his career. Where he sort of got his wings musically was he began to sing at Shin-nay, which was a nightclub in Greenwich Village. And he became such a sensation there that people would drive up in their limousines to hear him sing. And he learned how to completely just work an audience. It was just him and his guitar. And he sang everything. He sang songs by the Smiths. He sang songs by Nina Simone, Judy Garland, of all things. Porgy, I Love You, Porgy, the female aria from Porgy and Bess. He just sang everything. And it was there that he learned how to work an audience, because he was so intimately connected with them. It's interesting because when he became had his own band, he had a totally different way of operating. He would completely close his eyes and shut out the audience and go into like a trance. All of his guitar training, though, came back when he got his band, because he was one of the most skilled rockers ever with guitar, and he hired really great guitarists. So his band really rocked. And he did most of the music he composed himself, but he did some covers, including Hallelujah, which ended up being a really big hit for him. I think he had the biggest hit with that very popular, sensational song. Many musical rock knowledgeable people feel that he has the greatest voice of rock music, and probably the greatest voice up until Dimash, who came out just a few years ago, and this is over 30 years. It's quite something. Even Jimmy Page of Led Zeppelin, who was, Mr. Rocker himself, he thought that Grace, Buckley's album, was the best album of the past decade. That's quite a recommendation. I've watched a lot of videos where people analyze his singing, who are voice teachers, and they know better than me, but they say that it looks like he's straining for effect to be dramatic. But if you look at his neck and in his torso, he's always very supported in the way that he sings, and he supports the voice, and he's not really straining, although he looks like he is. Many influences on his music, including the Smiths. He was really influenced by Sufi music. He got into this. There was a Sufi artist from I think Afghanistan maybe, that he became really a devotee of his music. And it's interesting, you know, a lot of rock artists, when they start off a performance, they'll start off really upbeat. That's the traditional sort of way you do it. You get the audience worked up. Well, he would do the opposite. He would start off with something slow and meditative. And I'm going to be playing you something tonight where he begins with music that was very influenced by the Sufi music. And what he does with his voice is so beautiful. He did only one album, complete album, and that was Grace. And then he was working on another album, and he was in Memphis working on it, and he decided for some reason to go swimming in the Mississippi River. Well, anybody from Mississippi, where I'm from, would tell you, you don't do that. There are all these currents in there. You don't know what's going on, and he drowned. And this was 30 years ago, and he's actually bigger now than he was back then. Back then, most of his reputation was actually abroad, more so than in America. Now it's sort of diffuse all over. He had there was a big movie about his life, the beginnings of his career, that was done recently, and it starred this very handsome man from Gossip Girl, and that actor could really sing, and he even had a big range like Jeff Buckley. I don't know how they found this guy. Not many people could have done that. Brad Pitt wants to make a movie about his life. I just think he's wonderful. And I hope that when I play you this music, you will become intrigued with him and find him wonderful also. Thank you for listening.
Rest your hands on my shoulder. Your love melts like sweet brown chocolate, melting on the tongue of gold. Sound golden sound. It's not too late.